prospers when religion is vibrant and the rule of law under God is acknowledged.
An informed patriot is what we want.
Welcome to Focal Point, the home of muscular Christianity on Conservative Talk Radio.
Muscular Christianity,
where we relentlessly explore the intersection of truth and politics.
The trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so.
Now, here's your host, Brian Fisher.
And welcome. You might be able to tell if you're really astute and if you're watching on video, or even actually if you are just listening, that this is in fact not Brian Fisher. I am Dr. Gina Loudon, and I am your guest host today, and I could not be more delighted. I've been doing a lot more television than radio these days, and I have to tell you, I miss the radio audience, and I didn't realize, it's one of those, just that old, what grandma told you, that you don't know what you've got till it's gone, and this is the exact point I would love to make here. I miss my radio audience, and when I got to be with you on Tuesday and take your calls, yes, even those antagonists out there, I'll tell you what, I missed it so much. So I am pumped to be with you today. We have a great show in store. You are not going to want to miss a moment. First, to tell you a little bit about me, I am first and foremost mother of 5, one by the blessing of adoption, who happens to have Down syndrome, and I love that. And people say, well, why do you say that? I say that because once in a while, when I say that in a public forum, I'll get a letter or a call or some sort of correspondence from someone who says, I've always thought about adopting someone with a special need. What's it really like? And I'll give you the lowdown on that. And so I just like to throw that out there so that people know. Also, we have something coming up, a project coming up. I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say about it. I meant to ask before I started the show. Generally speaking, that's better. A little project with American Family Association that you'll be hearing more about, my adoption and that of my family's. Because it is a family thing, of course, when you adopt a special needs child. That will be coming up. You'll be hearing more about that from the good folks at AFA. You can find me on Facebook or Twitter. Yes, I am a social media hog. I just love it. I love social media. I love that we can communicate there. I know we get a little paranoid sometimes, maybe about the government watching us on our social media mediums, if you will. But I say, they're watching us anyway. Let's at least be in the game defining the narrative. And so I spend a lot of time talking to my audiences wherever I have the chance about the definition of the narrative as I see it. And that's precisely what we're going to do today. But you can find me on Facebook or Twitter at Dr. Gina Loudon. And you can find my work also at WorldNet Daily, WND.com, or MoneyBizLife.com. I have the Smart Life show here, where, it's interesting. As someone said, if you could do any kind of a show, what would you want to do? And they were giving me the opportunity to do that. And I said, what I'd want to do? I'd want to lay out conservative truth in ways that don't say this is conservative truth. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it makes so much sense to me. My background's in psychology. Then the thing I continue to realize about the things that you and I believe and the values that you and I share is that they work. They work. In very simple terms, free markets work. Freedom works. Love works. Truth works. Honesty works. Compassion works. I mean, you go straight down the list of values as if you're reading straight through the Bible or straight through the words of Jesus Christ, and you realize that it's all just very simple when you think about how well it works in an ordered society. And so how to explain that to people without saying, this is my Bible, because that's not my job. I'm certainly not a preacher. I have a great pastor, and he exhorts, and I need it. And so that's not my orientation. I don't want to preach. I don't want to lecture about conservative principles or even really Constitution. But the beautiful thing about the Constitution, because it is based on Judeo-Christian principles, and because it was written by Judeo-Christian framers, the beautiful thing is that it works too. So even without explaining, well, this is your First Amendment right, which of course I do, I say, this is what works. Don't you see how that relates so well to Oh, it just happens to be your First Amendment right. How awesome is that? Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are truly dealing with a period in our history that we've never seen before. And it's not just the smut, and it's not just the lies, and it's not just the, up in your face crassness that we're getting on a daily basis all over television and even radio. But it really goes deeper than that. It's about a systemic illness that it has left us so susceptible to believing things that aren't true and believing systems that don't work. Now, you say, well, Dr. Gina, that sounds fancy, sounds psychobabbly, but how do you know? Well, in school, I studied organizational systems. My PhD is actually in human and organizational development. That is the interactions of a human in the systems that we work in. Now, that's all a bunch of boring stuff to say that when you have a system that has been so polluted as our system has been, not just in the United States, but in the world, when you have that system all around you, so much so that the apparatus in which you're functioning you can barely see anymore, and then you have lies fed into that system over and over and over. It gets very difficult to understand what really does work and what a healthy system even looks like anymore. And that's, frankly, where we are. That's where we are. So today we're going to talk about that, and we're going to break it down. We have some great guests in store for you. We have a man who is taking on the establishment in the party in his state. And he's looking to take the fight to Washington, D.C. Senator Chris McDaniel is going to be with us on Focal Point on AFR today, talking about taking on the establishment, talking about what is happening with the debt ceiling, for crying out loud. This is where we're broken. We're broken when, and we're going to talk about this coming up in the show too, Michelle Obama buys a party dress. Now, I'm a capitalist. Look, I'm totally cool with Michelle Obama, I'll get this right, buying a party dress. I have no problem with that. I have a problem with it being a $12,000 party dress. I have a problem with this party being more about glorifying Barack and Michelle than it is about any sort of foreign relations. I have a problem with all of that taking place, pretending like we are not in a national crisis, pretending like we don't have a debt ceiling issue, pretending like our elite in Washington, D.C. are actually somehow representing the people that they work for. That would be you and me, we the people. I have a big problem with a $12,000 dress. We're going to talk about that coming up as well. Also today on the show, Joe Messina. He's one of my favorites. He's a syndicated radio host. He scours the deepest, darkest crevices for stories you will have trouble believing, but they're true, and that you will hear probably, I would venture to say, nowhere else. We're going to have Joe Messina coming up on the show. We're also going to get to a story I read about at W&D, wasn't my own, talking about what people think is biblical today. I'm going to give you a couple of hints. One of them is Harry Potter. When people listen or think about Harry Potter or read the books, many people today are actually so deluded, so distorted, so far from what truth is, they think Harry Potter is part of the Bible. You can't make this stuff up. We're going to talk about all this today. Also, a retail therapy study saying that shopping might be good for you. I'm going to give you my take on that. We've got a great show in store. I hope you will stay with us for the whole 2 hours. I'm going to make plenty of time to open up those phone lines today because I want to hear from you. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Stay with us today on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. I'm Dr. Gina filling in. We're going to have fun. Buckle your belts.